Alright, hi everyone. My name is Nick Dreher. I'm a master's student in the Environmental Studies program here, and I'm looking at the relationship between climate change, resilience, traditional ecological knowledge in the context of the Karuk Eco-Cultural Resource Management Plan. And before I start, I just want to acknowledge both the Kalapuya tribe, whose land we're on today, and the Karuk tribe, who are the source of the inspiration and research for this project. And I also want to say there's a lot for me to cover, and so I'm going to talk probably really fast, and I apologize for that ahead of time. So my research question was looking at how is traditional ecological knowledge incorporated into management strategies of forest and riparian ecosystems, as well as managing traditional resources in the resource management plan of the Karuk to promote resilience to climate change. So, brief outline of what I'm going to be talking about. I'll briefly just give you context of where the Karuk are located in Northern California before defining a few key terms, and then looking at climate change impacts in Northern California before looking at some of the details in the Eco-Cultural Resource Management Plan, and then drawing conclusions from there on traditional ecological knowledge and how traditional ecological knowledge can inform climate change resilience. So the Karuk Aboriginal Territory is located in the northwest corner of California in 3 counties up in the top left. Those are Siskiyou, Humboldt, and Del Norte counties. The tribe has no reservation land, but they do have trust lands located along the Klamath and Salmon rivers that you can see in the second map there. The tribe is federally recognized, but most of their land is concurrent with USDA forest land, and so there's complications with them not having a reservation and having to work with those kind of federal agencies. Traditional ecological knowledge, there's a lot of different terms that are used to describe traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge. Traditional ecological knowledge, a popular definition that's used widely in the field is this first one that you see here. It's a cumulative body of knowledge, practice, or belief evolving by adaptive processes and handed down through generations by cultural transmission about the relationships of living beings with one another and with their environment. So that definition is from a non-Indigenous scholar by the name of Burks, and it's also the definition that's incorporated into the resource management plan, and that's why I'm using the terminology traditional ecological knowledge. That definition has been criticized in some circles recently, especially by people in the Indigenous community, and this second definition here offers an alternative from Winona Ledoux. So resilience, as I defined it through looking at the research, is the capacity for a dynamic and complex social ecological system to continue to function after an external shock through adaptive capacity and adaptation. So what I was looking at is the resilience of the tribe and ecosystems within their Aboriginal territory to climate change and its projected impacts. And the other, so what's important to note about resilience and climate change is it's not just resisting change, it's adapting to changes and developing new ways of operating within a system. And the relationship between traditional knowledge and resilience is also important. There's research that shows that traditional knowledge informs adaptive capacity and resilience, and at the same time, traditional knowledge is not static, it changes over time, and resistance or response to crises and changes informs the traditional knowledge. So climate change impacts that will be affecting the Karuk Aboriginal lands, the 4 main ones are rising temperatures, decreasing snowpack, changes in snowmelt pattern, and increases in wildfire range, frequency, and intensity. So these are some figures from the 3 counties that I mentioned previously on temperature, snowpack, and wildfires. You can see significant increases in temperature, decreases in snowpack, and some really significant increases in wildfires. There's also research that shows that stream flow distribution is going to change, and so that there's going to be wetter winters and drier summers, which will have a lot of impacts on important cultural resources, that are susceptible to fire and changes in temperature, as well as declines in fish and other important aquatic resources, especially salmon, which are a vital staple food and cultural resource of the Karuk people. So the Karuk Eco-Cultural Resource Management Plan, the vision of this plan, as it says here, is a long-term adaptive management strategy for the protection, enhancement, and utilization of cultural and natural resources. This draft plan was put together in 2010 by the tribe's Department of Natural Resources, and it's not in direct response to climate change and its impacts. Rather, it's just a way of them dealing with changes and maintenance of cultural ecosystems that they deal with. The plan that I'm going to be talking about, it's informed by what's called the Karuk World Renewal Philosophy, and this is a diagram trying to capture some of the components of this philosophy. The important things to note are the reciprocal relationship between nature and the tribe. And the tribe adapts to ecological conditions, not vice versa. It doesn't make changes to the ecosystem, it adapts to them. And this capacity to adapt to changes is an indicator of resilience in all sorts of resilience literature. And so this world renewal philosophy, it provides the lens through which the Karuk tribe are looking to adapt to climate change. So there's two major resources that I'm going to be talking about. First is fire and water. So the Karuk have used fire for generations as a way to maintain ecosystems and promote ideal conditions for important cultural resources like acorns, which is another staple food for the tribe, hazelnuts, tobacco, wild rice. But the tribe believed that since the arrival of European Americans and fire suppression and logging practices that have promoted monoculture logging, the composition and structure of their Aboriginal lands, forested ecosystems, has fundamentally changed. And now those ecosystems are no longer compatible with traditional ways of managing them through use of fire. And these beliefs on suppression and logging are held throughout the Pacific Northwest by indigenous people. Regarding water, the Karuk economy is still built around the river and fishing, especially spring salmon is a key resource for them. And the salmon is also an indicator of the quality of the entire ecosystem. As populations of salmon have declined, that has shown to them that the ecosystem as a whole is not doing well, not just the salmon population specifically. So the Eco-Cultural Resource Management Plan has what are called cultural environmental management practices. These are 23 specific practices that the tribe has developed to manage cultural ecosystems, cultural resources. 12 of them, all of these management practices are holistic. They touch on what the tribe called 15 different resource management objectives. So there's 12 that deal specifically with forested ecosystems, but the tribe tie those to everything. And the idea is to restore forests and composition suitable for traditional forest management. So the other thing that they look at is restoring riparian ecosystems and important species. 8 of these management practices deal with doing that. So looking at the resource management plan and resilience, as I said before, it does not explicitly respond to climate change. However, it looks at resources that are going to be particularly susceptible to the impacts of climate change. And the report also suggests that fire management practices and restoration of watersheds promotes resilience of these ecosystems to climate change. And in summing up, the resource management report illustrates that the current ecosystems are vulnerable and suggests that restoration to traditional ecosystems and using traditional methods is the best way to promote resilience. And this plan also represents an adaptation or a dynamic change in traditional ecological knowledge of the group. And finally, the resource management plan suggests that the Karuk TEK is best suited for the continuity of both the ecosystems that they live in and the culture of the Karuk people. And in doing so, the resource management plan promotes TPK as a way to foster resiliency to ecosystems, to all sorts of changes, particularly in this context, climate change. And to tie it back to the world renewal philosophy, the way that the tribe sees ecological conditions, they adapt to those, and that's what they're promoting here in this research management plan. So that's all for me. Thank you.